Hello. And we've hit record. Actually, we hit record, then we pause and forget it. We're here. We're here. You're here. Let's get that next episode going. One of the things we discussed last time as a potential was one that was a good one, and now I got to go figure out where that went. You had it somewhere around here. Oh, there it is. This is a nice thing. Use a little bonus thing. Use like Slack or something like that where you've got an easy way to keep track of conversations because it does make life so much better. Cutting the clutter, that's it. Cutting the clutter. Oh, this is a good one because it's actually I just had a saw a project come across that people were looking for some stuff and I'm like, "Oh wow, that is a fun little project that you guys have put together and it's a clutter related thing." So I think let's go ahead and dive into this one and we're going to talk about clutter. Sound good? All right. Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing our season where we're talking about the developer journey. We are here at Developreneur, also building better developers, which hopefully is going to happen to you as you go through your developer journey, is that you're going to start, young and wide-eyed and all that kind of stuff. And you're going to get old, but you're going to know a lot of crap because I guess that's the benefit of being old as somebody other than just now you have all kinds of new pains every day when you get up. I am your pain for the next little bit here, one of the two. My name is Rob Broadhead. I am a founder of Developreneur, also a founder of RB Consulting, where we do software solutions. We look at simplification, automation, and integration to find ways to take your technology sprawl, simplify it, and give you a solution that works, which, funny enough, is going to be very similar to the topic we're going to hit. Before I introduce Mike, I do want to mention, because sometimes I mix it up, today, we're going to focus on cutting the clutter. We're going to talk about, as a developer, we're going to talk about like the clutter, not like necessarily around your desk, although that may be something that comes up, but really more like the developer clutter that you have to deal with. But before we get into that, we'll tease it a little bit and we'll send it out to Mike to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Malash. I'm one of the co-founders of Developreneur. I'm also the founder of Envision QA. So if you're a small to mid-sized business or a clinician looking for software, custom software, or just need help figuring out what you currently have, we do software assessments. And we also pride ourselves on quality software. So we write a lot of software built on integration tests, unit testing, and system testing.
Clutter, 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 clutter. Boy, our lives would be so much easier if we didn't have clutter. And this is particularly code. Oh my gosh. And this is like where it's a perfect dovetail into a recent project I saw. It was described as, and we've talked about these sort of like nightmarish type things, is that it was originally built, and I guess I can give some of the specifics of it. It won't matter to it. It was originally built in like Python 1 or version 1 or 2, which for those of you that aren't Python people, that has not really been like that. That's a long, long time ago, like 10 plus years ago. But then it's somewhere along the way got upgraded to Python 3. They also somewhere along the way upgraded their user interface. And a couple of years ago is when they did this, and they did it. I don't remember what they said, but it's basically like, pick your CSS library. If they did it all in this new CSS library, and they don't like that. So they're going to throw that out. But all the code's still there, and it hasn't been completely ported over. Along the way, they also had two or three other like half-started runs at doing some features that the code is still there, but it's not complete. And now it sits in version control, but even that, it sounds like there's like a couple of different branches and they're not really sure which branch they're on. That would be an example of clutter. And this is where I want to talk code in particular, because this is something that I think it really is like a developer habit or standard. And it is about keeping your code tight and clean. In particular, when you're in development mode and you're writing stuff and then you realize maybe that you don't need it, or that like you've got a big section of code and you realize I'm going to simplify that. I'm going to refactor it into something smaller. I know a lot of people, I know in several developers that never delete anything. Comment, 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 comment. That is a total nightmare to go through. You have no idea, unless you've actually maintained your type of code and had to pick it up and go search for something. Like, for example, is because most searches are going to just be text-based searches. And so you're going to go search through code for this stuff, and you're going to find this method like 18 different times, and it's all commented out. And you're going to go, what is it? Where's the one? You're having to dig through it. Version control will allow you to go back to that. You don't have to comment it out to save it. If you feel that strongly about it, pull it out, shove it into a little text file that is like my critical snippets or something like that. And then you're off and running. I do this with database work. I do it all the time. I have these long SQL files that all they are is all these different like queries and weird stuff that I've done for that client, that database. So I can go back to it. And sometimes I have notes around it so I can go track it. I don't need to like shove it into some big script and have it all commented out. Delete the code. Don't sit there and then have these big, particularly functions. Oh, it drives me nuts. Yeah, this big function, it's commented out, particularly if you use multi-line comments where you can have like a slash asterisk and then there's nothing and then there's a slash asterisk somewhere at the end and you got to go find that. Now, granted, if you use an IDE, usually you can find that stuff, but still, it's a pain and it gives you like files grow to these huge things. Just don't be afraid to delete it. If you're using version control properly, then you're going to be okay. That stuff will disappear. Likewise, extra files. I don't know how many times I've gone in and I've taken like maybe there's an HTML file and I'm going to play around with it. So I'll make it, test copy, or I'll do something to be like, I'll rename the file and I'll have it there. If you leave those things sitting around, it drives people nuts. It is ridiculously, that's not how you version control. Do not version control by doing like index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4, because nobody knows what the top number is. I worked in a project that was what this guy did. And sometimes he had version 2, and sometimes it was version 3, and sometimes he would just do V2, V3, V4, V5. You never knew what the top number was. And they would be mixed. So the V2 file would call a V5, which would call a V3, which would call a V4. And it was all just too painful. So there is some clutter that you can definitely make some changes on, is clean up the crap that you're not using. Don't be afraid to use, like if you use Git, don't be afraid to use Git ignore, and don't store all that crap out in the repository. If it's not needed, or bonus material, if it's private information, don't put it out in your GitHub repository. Keep that stuff in the Git ignore. So you shouldn't have like your local passwords and stuff like that. Yeah, you can be like me and be lazy occasionally and say, okay, here's a development database and I'll give you this information. But generally speaking, that should not be there. Shove that stuff out into a settings file or something that you deal with locally. And then you don't have to worry about, like, for example, a security breach because somebody breaks into your code out on GitHub. I'm going to step off of my soapbox because I was like, I just got a little bit into a tear there, and I'm going to let Michael like take us down a notch and a little feedback on that. And then what's a clutter that gets your head all about to explode, because apparently that's the direction I've taken.
Oh, so much to unpack. It's really funny that you mentioned that. So the first thing that comes to my mind are possible additional solutions to that. So you mentioned, make sure you commit your code into GitHub. There's things like code reviews, other things. Look at using like SonarQube, SonarLint, any type of code static review tool. They'll highlight things like that. They'll say like, hey, you have all this code out there that might not be used or dead code. Remove it. You have source control. Make a comment when you commit your code that, hey, I'm removing this for now. It's still in history. You also don't need to keep your branches kicking around. So I guess I have two kind of soapboxy things myself. So the big clutter, the first clutter that comes to mind with Git or with any source control is a lot of managers like to keep old branches out there because they want to keep the conversation history of the changes that went on within the source code. I don't know about you, but I can't remember what I did 3 months ago. And typically code moves so fast that code from a month ago, that stuff doesn't matter anymore. You're past that. Get rid of that stuff. make sure when you do commit your code, you commit with solid comments in your commit. And when you merge that code in, that goes with it. You have a history. You can view the source code history. There's all your notes. So don't keep your source, don't keep all those branches around forever. It also takes up space, and your DevOps people will be very thankful if you manage that and maintain that well. So kind of following on that soapbox of comments and like dead code being around in, making our lives hell, the additional piece, so the flip side of that is copying and pasting code all over the place. I have worked on so many projects where this one method is in 6 places, doing the exact same thing in 6 places. Write a utility file, call the utility file once. A project I'm currently working on with spreadsheets, we have certain reports that we do, and the logic right now is every report has a different set of sheets, but in reality, we actually have a template sheet for each sheet that's being reused by these different reports. So what we really should be doing is writing a template sheet for like a summary, and then extending it for each report and reusing it that way. I ran across this because trying to write the unit tests and integration tests, I found I had to write 6 different tests on 6 different classes that did the exact same thing. So when you're trying to find the logic for something and something's not working, one method had the calculation backwards, but everywhere else it was right. So now you're going through all these places. Well, this is right. This is right. It makes life hell to try and track down a problem if it's all over the place. The other problem with copying and pasting is you might be copying bad code into another project or into another class. So be very careful with the whole copy paste thing. If you need to make a copy, step back and think to yourself, is this a utility? Is this a parent class? Is this a standalone object, or even its own project or you can move to a module and call a module for multiple projects. Look at streamlining it that way. And the last thing before I throw it back to you, Rob, is as you're going through this, not only avoid the copy paste, but avoid the long methods or the long functions. Write clean code. If you start walking through and you find a method does 4 different tasks, break that out into 4 methods or 4 functions. Each function is a different task, and then you call the methods that you need. That way, you never know, because that function, that one task, could be reused for something else. So therefore, again, you're not duplicating code all over the place. But if you don't separate those into separate methods, you don't know, because you're hiding that logic within this big, nasty method. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
I think with those, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let that sit, because those are all like very good. Those are excellent points. I do want to switch a little bit out of the code realm when we talk about clutter. And 2 things that I think are very common now is tab clutter, is people have browsers open and you've got 400 tabs. And also we'll call it used to be desktop clutter. You could sit down to somebody's desktop and they would have 400 icons sitting up on that desktop. But now we also get it with our phone or our tablet, where you'll have all these applications. You'll be scrolling through like page after page after page of icons and apps, and being like, hey, I need to go do this. I need to go do that. Where is it at? How am I going to go get there? There are all kinds of methods to reduce that clutter, whether it's as simple as put these things into folders. So you have, like, maybe on your phone, maybe you have your work folder, your personal folder, your workout folder, your hobby folder, that kind of stuff. Put those apps in there, so at least you're not having to scroll. Same thing on your desktop. I know that it's easy to have a desktop that's full of shortcuts. And you know that, like, over here in the top left is always where that one thing is, or down there in the bottom right is where that one is. But as soon as something happens with your desktop icons, the like the best example is when like the sort changes. So they were all sorted by maybe not at all. And now some of these, somewhere along the way, you sorted all those things by name. And now it's blowing your head up because you don't know where that icon is anymore. So you're having to search through all this stuff. Use folders, use a better organization because it really is. It's just like your actual desk, just throwing a bunch of crap out there and then going to find it. Yes, there may be method to your madness, but if you have folders or something like that, some sort of grouping, it will make the method to your madness a lot easier for you to get through. Don't beat your head over where did I put that? Where did I put that? Where did I put that? Once you've found that that's an issue, put it as set aside, like, earmark some time to go clean that stuff up. And again, it's reducing clutter. Reduce the clutter of your icons, reduce the clutter of all of those tabs that you have open every time you open a browser. One of the things that we've lost because now machines pretty much can stay up almost all the time was the idea. It used to be in the day that you would get done with your workday and you would shut your machine off. And the next day you would turn your machine on. And so you had to worry about boot times. And you may still do that somewhere, but there are a lot of places where we don't, and that allows us bad habits of having 400 different applications up and all these other things that, yeah, it's worth it. Like, again, if you have a defined end of the day, which you should, shut stuff down, close stuff up, things like that to just get yourself in the habit of decluttering your digital life as well as your physical life. Last thoughts from you?
Yeah, in addition to that, declutter your desk and your desktop. If you are in like healthcare, you have to worry about HIPAA and things of that nature. The clean desk policy is not just a habit, it's becoming mainstream. So if you are in an office, keeping stuff off your desk is pretty much key to ensuring that privacy, private information isn't lifted or stolen or inadvertently seen, and now you've got a legal issue. Additionally, the last thing I would like to touch on is within the idea of organization and kind of clutter. Uh, One of the additional things we come across is your idea of boot times, right? Having to reboot and shut down your computer. The other thing to think about as you are testing your software or you are building software, think about writing tests or testing stuff. Make sure you clean up after yourself. So if you're going to insert a whole bunch of test data into a table, make sure you also have delete statements to delete that test data back out when you're done so that you don't basically you leave your test environment in the same state it was before and after you test it. This also allows you to test different things. You can do load testing, systems testing, and some other features there. But just kind of be cautious and think about that whole continuous integration, continuous deployment, but also think about cleaning up after yourself within your scripts and your tests.
Yeah, data clutter is probably one of the most painful things to go through, and it definitely can really slow down development environments and things of that nature. I don't know how often I've worked with situations like we need a way to like do a delete, or if you can't delete data, then an archive or something because you'll get like daily dashboards and stuff that suddenly have, or not suddenly, but grow. And now they've got thousands and thousands of records and the whole thing is slow because you're hitting all of that data all the time. And you need ways to like, ignore some of it, whether it's delete it, clean it up, filter it, things like that. That being said, you don't need to delete, clean up, filter, or anything else, the stuff we said. You should just go ahead and just like sit back and just consume it. And, like, how does that taste? It should taste pretty good because we're suggesting that you declutter your life and find some simplification. Trust me, a little bit of work on this. If you're at all like me, it actually becomes sort of addictive because you realize that you put a little bit of time in and now you saved a whole lot of time. And the next thing you know, you're like, well, what if I put a lot of time in? Maybe I'm going to save so much time, I'm going to start getting younger again or something like that. There is magic in declutter, just getting rid of the clutter and realizing how much easier and simpler your life, your tasks become at that point. For example, that would free up time so that you can send us comments and feedback and things like that. And you can do that at info@developreneur.com. We have a form out there on developreneur.com, so you can send us information there. You can leave us comments, whether it's at wherever your podcast, wherever you gather podcasts and listen to them, out on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. You can check out school.developreneur.com. We also have comment forums there. You can sign in and give us feedback as well as there. Go out to our site, blog articles. We have comments turned on, all that good stuff. So you can give us feedback and let us know what you like, what you don't like, and recommendations for future topics that you might have. That being said, we're ready to bring this one to a close. We are not done with the season. We're just like chugging along here, like, roughly, I don't know, a third-ish maybe through with it. So we got plenty to come. We're going to continue that developer journey as you guys do as well. As you're continuing your journey, we're going to talk about these things that we've hit on, and even some things that we see coming up. However it is, you have the rest of your day coming up. So once you go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. Bonus clutter stuff for the people that are still sitting around and haven't left yet.
So I have two. One, especially if you have mobile devices, lots of apps, you don't need to buy a device that has a terabyte of storage on it. You don't need to pay for cloud information for terabytes of storage. Get in the habit of cleaning up your stuff. If you have thousands of photos, do you need 1,000 photos? No, chances are you're only going to look at them once in a while. Pick your favorite photos, dump them off to a computer, print them out, move them to something more permanent. The flip side of that is look around your house. Is there anything you haven't touched in a year or two? Get rid of it. We don't need to pay for storage. We don't need storage facilities. The whole idea of unpacking and cleaning up the clutter doesn't just apply to code. You can do that with everything in your life. And by doing that, you get rid of something that you've been staring at for 6 months or a year, and it's like, I really need to get rid of that. Or, I really don't have room for all this new stuff I bought. Well, get rid of some of the old stuff so the new stuff can find a better place. Your thoughts, Rob?
I think that the first part is you really don't need all of that space. Now you can be like me, you can like be a little pack ratty and you can save, but you can save old emails and so old images and all that kind of stuff. You can save that stuff and just shove it off somewhere. You will be happier for it because sooner or later your devices are going to get really, really expensive because you're just storing crap there that you can find easier ways to do it. Whether it is offline in a cloud storage somewhere where you just, you've got that away, or at least not offline, but that it's on cloud storage somewhere where you have access to it, but at least it's not on your device where it is much more, expensive to keep buying that storage over and over again. Or whether you want to store it somewhere and have a big server at home that you can take a look at it. It's that kind of stuff. Just pull that stuff off because it does slow down your devices. Also, like if you don't have a lot of space on them, then it's going to slow them down. They're going to start griping and have issues. So get that crap off. Periodically pull it off. Utilize things like even the Apple, like they've got the on the Apple devices, they have like the store the app in the cloud. If you don't use it for a while, they'll basically pull it off of your device, and you can always bring it back down again when you use it. But if you haven't used it in a while, just delete that thing. If you don't need it, don't use it. General clutter is one of the things that I found is notes. Is wherever you're taking taking notes, make sure you like pick one. There's so many places to do it, but like find a way to, whether you have like a little journal book that you keep all your notes in, or whether you use Evernote, or whether you use one of these list devices, list apps, whatever it is, try to stick to one, because the clutter of having too many places to enter information can really become a pain when you're like, where did I put that? And I've done that a few times because I have been forced by clients and access and all that kind of stuff to have 4 or 5 different places. And it'll be like, where did I put that IP address for that server? Oh, crap. It's nope, not there. Oh, nope, nope. So the more you can simplify down your places that you store these things, the easier it is to know that, well, I don't know how, even if it's difficult to find it in that place, at least you're looking in the right place. So there's a couple for you. You are looking in the right place if you want to become a better developer. So you're here, you're out on the Developer Nerd channel. As we've mentioned before, you can check out our website. I don't know why I'm pointing over here like the website's over here. Like on the internet, go out to the YouTube channel, take a left, go 5 blocks, and a right from there, and boom, you're at the Developer Nerd site. Something like that. Check us out on the Developer Nerd site. We've got a lot of stuff there, lots and lots and lots of material there as well. Especially if you're trying to get away from the video side of YouTube stuff, lots of videos here. But also we've got all kinds of like downloads and written content and things like that, as well as the audio content of over 700 different episodes of the podcast. We've been just like cranking through this. There's a lot out there. If you go out, because some of these places don't even store some of the older stuff. If you need an older one, let us know. If you want to go find out like what season one looked like, shoot us an email and we will send you some audio files or a link to them. That being said, it is time for us to wrap this one up because we got to go out to our day and we got to work on becoming better developers ourselves besides just sharing these conversations, even though they are very productive for us as well. But we'll let you get out there. Thank you so much for your time and spending some time with us. And we'll be here right around the corner. We'll be yet another episode and we'll dive into all the ways that you can become a better developer. Have a good one.